Unbound were, spoiler alert, a company that was essentially, what if Kickstarter was specifically a book publisher? In that they were a crowdfunding platform for books where people could sign up and back your book and like get copies once it's shipped and like rewards and such. And then once the book was funded, they became the publisher for it and would handle things like distributing the book to wholesale bookshops.
Okay.
Now it was quite attractive because it was a platform for folks who maybe would struggle to pitch their book to traditional publishers, that they could crowdfund it instead and then get their book published if it was popular enough.
That's actually really cool. I like that.
Yes.
It was cool.
Yes, it was. Then they had a bit of a boo-boo.
Oh, here we go.
Ran out of money.
Terrible problem.
Yeah.
They also made, allegedly, I'm not quite sure if this is on the public record, but there are certainly sources pointing to it, that allegedly what they did, which was really, really bad, and if you are starting a business like this, you should never do, is they commingled the money that they had for authors' royalty payments with the money that they had to run the company.
That
In other words,
that is a boo-boo.
in other words, they were spending money that they owed to authors.
They were spending money that wasn't theirs.
Yes. And so when they went bankrupt, those authors were left uncertain as to whether they're ever going to get paid for their books. So when Unbound went into administration, some of the people behind it created a successor company, Boundless, who...
Did they literally just
Hang on,
get,
Unbound,
did they just find a
Boundless.
thesaurus and go, that'll do.
That one.
And then when this all went down, I don't know if I have one of the sources from this because it was early. It was late last year, early this year that Unbound initially went bankrupt. Is that they left authors uncertain as to whether they're going to actually be paid. It was in March that they filed for bankruptcy, and Boundless was created. Now, in an email sent to authors on Unbound, Boundless, it's becoming a little bit confusing now.
Yep.
They described the money that they owed to authors for the unpaid royalties as voluntary goodwill payments.
Yeah, they claimed in the email that they had
That's the
no
quote.
legal requirement to pay
To
the
pay
authors.
the debt, to pay the money that Unbound owned them because they're legally a new company. And so any money that authors would get from them was entirely from the goodness of their
They
hearts.
try to
Got it.
create a loophole. And
Now, how legal for this has been is somewhat up for debate, and several authors who published on Unbound have said that they are lawyering up because
Yeah, fair.
It's an interesting one.
It's an incredibly difficult situation. One author who is YouTuber Nerdcubed, who has now published 2 books on Unbound, said that he is owed £40,000.
So not a small amount.
That's not insignificant.
That's a
and
year's
even for
salary
authors,
for someone well paid.
and even for authors who are owed less, when you think about it, if you're owed something like £5,000, that's still a lot of money.
Well, it is
Yeah.
still a
that
lot
you
of
would
money.
be putting aside for things like living,
Yeah.
paying your mortgage.
Just living.
Yeah. Mr. Nerdcubed said that when Unbound went into administration, he received a payment plan for the money that the previous company owed him, which said that they owed him less than £4,000 for a book which, in the pre-order phase, had raised £250,000.
well, that's
The maths
certainly
ain't
not
mathsing.
insignificant.
That's like a... Let's
Then
do some
he
quick
was-
maths here. 10%.
Yes, then he was told by Unbound's previous CEO that figure was wrong, and he'd get an updated payment plan. He never did. He was also told that they'd have advances on their way to him. They never arrived. He then discovered when his latest book was published, which it had sold enough copies to be on the Sunday Times bestseller list, but due to a cock-up at Unbound with how they calculated figures, it didn't make it onto the list. And
Excellent.
being on the bestseller list is a kind of a big deal for an author.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. So and
That's
there's
a royal cock-up.
That is quite bad.
and there's plenty and there's stories from other authors who have been affected by it, who have told similar stories of less than competence on the part of Unbound/Boundless. Now whether this was actually legal is going to go through presumably the courts as the authors sue for the money that they are owed.
Yes.
But one thing that was called out in the liquidation proposal of Unbound is where's the quote? About how they're going to be reducing their costs, streamlining an infrastructure. We're also undertaking new areas of business that require no funds to implement, such as starting to increase our rights income from book to video gaming by leveraging our contacts in the gaming industry, and potentially creating new content based on our intellectual property using inexpensive artificial intelligence platforms.
Right.
In other words, they're going into the AI slot business.
Oh,
Excellent. We needed
Fuck's
more of
sake.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is particularly dicey because as an author,
Yeah. This is like one of the many reasons that I hate generative AI. It exists solely as art theft.
Yeah,
be it
yeah. It's
words
just a
or
compilation
images.
of people's
It's,
work, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's stealing actual
Without
people's
having
art
to cite where it's from.
And then
Well,
just-
quite, yeah.
Yeah.
recreating it shittier
Yeah.
and being done with it.
so yeah, it's a really difficult situation because being owed £40,000 and then being told that you may not ever actually get it or you may get 10% of it.
Yeah.
That's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, I would not be happy.
It's
Yeah.
not ideal,